Right, on the pages of the newspapers this morning, first on that list is the Nation newspaper. And we have very bold headlines here saying the federal government ministerial panel to enforce council autonomy. I have joining me to review the newspapers this morning, Nelson Etta. Nelson, good morning.
Hi, Lavina. Good morning. Good to see you and good to be here with you.
Right, amazing headlines that we have here, and I have read out, the Nation newspaper, very bold outlines saying that the federal government is expected to, enforce council autonomy, which is a great development in the ministerial panel.
Absolutely.
But of course, we also have the managing director, News Agency of Nigeria, and also the former managing director of People's Daily newspaper via Zoom. That's Malam Ali Mohammed Ali. Good morning. Thank you for joining us and reviewing these papers this morning.
Well, good morning. It's good to be part of the show today. It's been quite a while. Review any headlines, so it's good, and happy New Year.
It's good we brought you out of the quietness to do this with us, madam.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
It's good. It's like, yes, it's familiar territory, but...
Great, great.
Yeah.
Right, so let's have your own reaction to the first headlines, the bold headlines this morning on the Nation, which is the federal government ministerial panel to enforce council autonomy, and the AGF is expected to direct disbursement. Of course, you answered that with Nelson on the Punch. Please take the Punch.
Absolutely. The Punch here says Dangote, NNPCL, total 247 firms dump discos to generate 6,500 megawatts. This is as operators blame poor supply for the move, and federal government laments exit from the national grid. It says here Dangote and a few other companies are dumping the discos to generate their own power. Malam, do you think this is the way to go, that these companies are pulling off from the national grid to generate their own power? What do you take?
We seem to have difficulty connecting to Malam, but let's go to Business AM. And the big story here says, hope rises as experts see Nigeria's inflation cooling off in 2025. Nelson, we've seen a lot of, speculations about the inflation rate in 2025.
Yeah.
And this is some of the issues, of course, we expect Malam to, address. Malam, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I missed that part, that latter part of the question. Okay.
Right.
Yes, I was asking you, what's your take on the fact that Dangote, NNPCL, a total of other 247 firms are dumping the discos to generate their own power? According to Punch here, they'll be generating around 6,500 megawatts. What do you think?
Well, I would say these guys are business people. And if you're not giving them service, they will look for alternatives. So over time, the discos, well, we know the history of the discos. Some of them, they are having problems from generation to transmission. And over time, we've seen how the national grid has collapsed almost routinely. And the discos, the gen codes, they're having problem of first generation, and then the distribution itself, then the transmission. So if these farms decide to maybe independently generate power for their businesses to flourish, you will say, yeah, they're doing the right thing. It's about service, and you are not giving me the service. Even if you, let's say, if you take it to the micro level, a lot of people are going solar, they're going green energy, clean energy. People are leaving the national grid. I know for a fact that a lot of people now rather have alternative sources of energy that rely on the discos, because the discos, they operate in the fixed and step. So if they decide to do that, yes, they're business people, they want to see how power supply. And I would say even this is just a tip of the iceberg. In other climes, you see major farms in other climes. For example, the Toyota company of Japan, on its own generates a whooping 36,000 megawatts of power. It even sells to other farms. So if a company, for example, in Japan, generates that much energy to meet its own energy requirement without relying on what we call the national grid or the discos here. Because the discos, we all know, most Nigerians are agreed that the discos have failed to deliver over time, and they have given all kinds of excuses for their failure to deliver. One of which is that even if the GenCos generates sufficient power in the distribution, that they are running at a loss, so that's one pathetic excuse. Then the other excuse is that the transmission lines themselves cannot convey that much power because they are old, they are aged, some of them have atrophy. So coming back to whether they have done the right thing, to me, if I'm running a business, because elsewhere, even nation's economy is measured by the amount of energy it wants. A nation's GDP, a nation's economy is determined by the amount of power it generates. If you look at generally, taking it outside these farms that have dumped the discos, look at it worldwide. Look at it, a country of our size, our population, our size. Look at the sheer
Madam, I have to butt it, yes, sir. We have quite a number of papers to review with you this morning. I see you're fired, Olamide. You know, business is business, and so
business as usual.
They have to keep running.
That is taking me to Business AM, and you know, in addition to this power issue, many persons are also reacting to the inflation rate. Hope rises as experts see Nigeria's inflation cooling off in 2025. What's your own perspective to this? How do you react, and what is your expectation for inflation rate in Nigeria this year?
Look, once with this decision now, once we fix a few things right, and if you look at what the federal government has been doing in the last couple of months, once we cross the T's and dot the I's, then you stimulate, for example, depending, each of the regions have its own unique attributes. For example, if you can link, if we have this nation's major challenge is insecurity, which even is beyond the shores of Nigeria. If you look at the whole of the Sahel, the West African sub-region, we're battling insecurity. Now, if you can boost security, which I see certain steps have been taken to do that over time, then you stimulate the economy, power with energy. Now, look at what's been happening lately. There's been a downward review of the prices of petroleum. If some people even say that this 100, that is really welcome. If that happens, and given that refineries which have been comatose over time, they are coming on stream. If you boost that, you get a regular fuel supply at affordable cost, then you stimulate the economy. There will be interconnectedness between and among the various regions of the nation. Now, if you look at how the nation's superhighways, now some of them, they have been, the nation's superhighways increasing greater connectivity between and among the various regions. You stimulate the economy, there will be greater movement, there will be greater interaction among the various regions that are blessed with unique attributes. Like if you look at the north, for example, vast land is there, farming. If farming is rejuvenated, people are gainfully employed. Then you link, for example, the hides and skin market up north in Kano with the shoe industry in, for example, leather industry in, say, southeast in Aba. If you can do that, and then look at our coastal, the waterways in Lagos and elsewhere, then you see the economy would be on the rebound, and then Nigeria economy at a point was the leading economy on the continent.
And let's still stay on
its place.
Let's still stay on the issue of
if we have some stability in the exchange rate.
Madam, can you hear me? Let's still stay on the issue of the economy. I take you now to the Daily Independent with a very bold header here, still on the economy. 2015 budget, debt servicing at 16.3 trillion, not sustainable. This is, of course, the opinion of experts. They say it dwarfs defense, infrastructure, education, health at 14 trillion, ask the federal government to cut debt burden and restore credit rating and tame inflation. And something else there on the Daily Independent, we have the police to Nigerians obstructing officers on duty attracts 2 years in prison. Malam, do you think that Nigerians obstruct the police while on duty?
Well, let's just say now since that the relationship between the Nigerian police and members of the public, Nigerian citizen, has not been that, especially what we see on the streets. They've not been exactly that of friendship or brotherhood. You will expect that there will always be that cat and mouse relationship. And you will say that Nigerians, some Nigerians, we've seen how they actually obstruct justice. I mean, obstruct the police, and over time, even the mentality of the Nigerian police. The Nigerian police is often not citizen friendly. It should be ordinarily citizens friendly. Some of the cops we see, especially on the street, they proceed, they decide their responsibility with a certain mindset, one of which is that everybody is guilty until you prove otherwise. Until you prove otherwise, they approach the job with that mentality. And actually, some a little bit cantankerous. Nigerians are on edge for obvious reasons. Over time, they're like to disrupt the Nigerian police.
Yeah.
All right, sir, very quickly, Malam, because of our time, let's go to the Guardian newspaper. Right, and the big story here says Nigeria tolls EU path. I'm hoping you can hear me.
Malam.
Integrates $146 billion shadow economy in the GDP plan. That's the road to the $1 trillion economy. Obasanjo reviews how Jimmy Carter saved him from Abacha. And in Zamfara State, APC has applauded the Nigerian Air Force as military denies involvement. Very quickly to Nigerian Tribune, the federal government is probing the rise in religious tension in the southwest. Operatives question Sharia proponents in Oyo State. How do you react to that?
Well, the thing is, sometimes in the latter part, the religious, I think it's needless, really, because you see somewhere, somehow, especially in the southwest, religious tension has not been as pronounced as in some other parts of the country, especially in the north. So you begin to wonder what happened, what really happened there. And then this is the time you recommend a greater community engagement by those who actually should foster greater unity and understanding. And as for the debt servicing, I think, yeah, economists will say it's only the economy that thrives, actually, that can even be credit-worthy. And that so long you are servicing your debt, you are credit-worthy. But, yeah, to me, I would say it's reasonable amount to service the debt.
Okay, Malam, I'd like to take you back to the Nation newspaper, where we had some very strong headlines there to consider. I'm trying to get that back up here.
Yeah.
And on the front page of The Nation, I'll take that for you.
Please.
We start, of course, with the council autonomy, as the federal government is expected to enforce this council autonomy at the ministerial panel. And we're expecting the EGF to also begin a direct disbursement. Quickly react to that.
Well, really, the meat of that story really escaped me, so I can't hazard a guess why. But I think what if the AGF is insisting on council autonomy, then you know that over time, that lack of autonomy must be hampering work. We must be hampering the operations of, government, how government. So if federal government wants to enforce that, and there must be a plausible reason for that. This is what I would say.
Right,
yes.
and that's Right. That's the Managing Director, News Agency of Nigeria, and former Managing Director of People's Daily newspaper, Malam Ali Mohammed. Ali, thank you for joining us in reviewing the papers this morning.
Thank you so much for your time, madam.
Thank you very much for having me. Well, I've been a bit rusty. I've not done this in a long while. So thank you.
With
Thank
time,
you very much.
madam. Thank you, sir. Have a good
Yes,
day.
thank you. Thank you.
Right, Nelson, interesting headlines we had
Absolutely.
this
It's been
morning.
marred with the economy everywhere. I think
I think there
Nigerians are
is...
hinged, on making sure we have food on our table and light in our homes,
And there is an increase in the concern about the inflation rate.
Absolutely.
Perhaps we should be expecting a more robust, presentation at, the ministerial panel to look at what some of these sectors have, in stock for Nigerians. But that's it on the newspaper review this morning. Over to you, Veronica and Ibrahim there.
All right, thank you, Olamide.